Good morning, Peter Racy here, Anzac Day Precinct YouTube channel, and we're at Brett's Wharf, which is at the end of Racecourse Road on the river. And you may ask why we're here. Well, we're here to promote a new project that will directly benefit the National Australia Remembers Freedom Wall, which is in the Brisbane Botanic Gardens at Mount Cootha. So let's move on. So as you can see from the sign in front of us, Brett's Wharf have a pivotal role in relation to World War II. And this stretch of the river is vitally important to the narrative of World War II because not only was it the location for the very first convoy from America to support Australia during World War II, it was also the base for the Catalina and other World War II amphibious aircraft to land and take off on.
On the morning of June the 3rd, a Catalina patrol aircraft spotted the leading ships of the Japanese task force. At dawn the following morning, another Catalina finally spotted the remaining ships, including the aircraft carriers. A large force of American carrier planes took off to strike the Japanese battle fleet.
So let's get into the meat of the YouTube and the key part of this section of the naming. So we have here a very important monument that was erected during the 50th anniversary of the ending of World War II, and that then directly links to the National Australia Remembers Freedom Wall, which was also built as a tribute to the 50th anniversary of the ending of World War II. And I have in my hand a very important research tool written by Noel Tunney called Winning from Down Under, and Noel was pivotal in having this monument built. Pensacola Convoy landed in Brisbane after leaving Hawaii, Pearl Harbour, just before the bombing of Pearl Harbour, spending a little bit of time at Fiji while it awaited instructions, and then was redirected on presidential instructions to the Southwest Pacific, to Brisbane in particular, and arrived here on the 22nd of December 1941. Fitting tribute to that quite historic arrival of a convoy. And the thanks needs to go to Noel Tunney, because it's in his book that the full justification is found. So what we have in front of us is the top end of, directly opposite the Gateway to Victory monument, and directly opposite the signage that points out the historical significance of Brett's Wharf during World War II. A very fitting proposal. Now let's move on to the next stage of these namings.
The failure of their attacks by sea. The Battle of the Coral Sea badly upset their plans. Oil storage tanks ablaze presented a difficult task for the firefighters. Every Australian is determined that this further violation of the soil of his homeland shall be repaid time and time.
So to the second part of this YouTube, and I'm jumping to a section of the narrative that is fully developed, and that is the Submariners Heritage Walk at Newstead, which is about 1.5 kilometres down that way. Let's just hear to a Brisbane greeter, Blair Alsop, talk about it.
During World War II, this wharf at New Farm was submarine central. Officially, this was the site of the U.S. Navy Submarine Operations and Maintenance Base for the Southwest Pacific. What that means is this was home to over 79 submarines, one of the largest submarine forces this country's ever seen, between the years of 1942 and 1945. How do I know? Well, there's a wonderful heritage trail called the Submariners Walk, which stretches 300 meters along the river. Dive in and learn about the subs that sailed from here to defend Australia. So why Brisbane? Why was Brisbane chosen as the submarine base? The Brisbane River was lined with wharfs, allowing many boats to be moored here. Brisbane was also the closest port to the action in the South Pacific.
Now, let's move on and talk about some of the heritage in Newstead Park. But before we do that, we need to understand why Brisbane was so important in the war effort. And that comes back to the Brisbane Dry Dock, the heritage listed Brisbane Dry Dock, where, as it happens, Australia's largest World War II relic is to be found on display at the Queensland Maritime Museum right now in Brisbane. So let's move on. So at the base of the Australian American Memorial, which is a tribute to the sacrifice of those who fought World War II, is a direct link to the National Australia Remembers Freedom Wall at Mount Cootha, as you can see by the logo on the top left-hand corner. We can see in the background the current Breakfast Creek Bridge, and to be built on this side of that bridge is a new pedestrian bridge, and this YouTube is in support of the petition to name that bridge the Battle of the Coral Sea Memorial Bridge. And as you've seen in the lead up to this particular point in the YouTube, there is a very strong narrative that that naming will sit within. You can see in front of us the Honourable Sally Ann Atkinson, then Lord Mayor, in the Expo 88 year, just prior, as it happens, to the end of Expo 88, unveiled this particular plaque and what was then for Brisbane a fairly major memorial. So in conclusion, as we have a look at this panoramic view of the Australian-American War Memorial, let's really finally conclude with a little bit of footage of the Governor at this year's Battle of the Coral Sea commemoration. Thank you and good morning.